Wow, 400 subscribers, huh? This channel is blowing up way faster than I expected, and you all seem to enjoy the last time we did this. So welcome back for our second Bob's Burgers conspiracy theory. What's up with Gus? Like I say to my divorce therapist, we've got a lot of bizarre things to talk about this time. So let's just get right on into it, and well better to start than this Silver Hair Fox's debut. The first time we meet Gus is in Season 4's Seaplane. Despite the whole family meeting Gus, and him having a fair number of lines, we don't actually learn too much about him. However, he flirts with Linda, asking if she needs a father figure. He's reminded by Kurt that he knows he's not allowed to go with them. And later on, he has a moment with Bob, where he admits that he doesn't normally have to see the other side of Upskirt Kurt's private, sensual flying lessons.
Gosh, I just don't normally see the husband or the kids. Jeez, real life comes up and hits you in the face.
And while that first line is clearly just a joke, the other two, along with his ability to recognize when Kurt is trying to land with his other joystick,
Looks like Kurt's trying to land with his penis again.
implies that he knows Kurt fairly well. Something that doesn't get brought up again for 5 more seasons. Season 9's Live and Let Fly. No, we're not doing these in order, keep up. But Season 9's Live and Let Fly confirms that he and Kurt have an extensive history, as he's able to tell a years-old story of how Lavone, quote-unquote, stole Kurt's Dyson slice. Unfortunately, there's not much else to talk about for old Gus in this one. He gets a really funny line that gets me every time that I'm going to share with you guys.
It's true.
He's doing it. He's upside down, and he's not pooping.
Probably.
But that's about it. That was underwhelming. He was barely even in that episode. And all that we've established is that he has a connection to another character that has not been seen since this episode. Great. Alright, let's just rip the bandage off and do a... Gus is a minor character, and some episode appearances are very brief. Lightning round. Back in Season 8's Boy Watch, Gus is seen hanging around the lifeguard tower and motivates Tina to not quit the junior lifeguards, while also telling her directly to quit. That's just how motivational this man is. He also takes great offense to being called wrinkly, so do with that what you will.
Wise old wrinkly man convinced me otherwise.
Oh, Gus.
I swear I didn't mean to. Also wrinkly? No, I've taken very good care of my skin.
Gus appears 2 more times in Season 9, both of them being pretty uneventful. In the Taking a Fun Time, he's shown being excited that Louise won the woolly mammoth, but is the only person around to care about it. And later on in Every Which Way But Goose, after eavesdropping Tina's middle school love life story to her new silly goose Bruce. That line took me so many fucking tries. He explains to Tina how geese can bond to people, and how he couldn't get Bruce to bond to him, while also throwing some shade.
Guess I wasn't sad and desperate enough.
Aw, Bruce.
Iconic. Side note, Gus appears 3 times this season, which is the record for him, but he also is barely in the season still. Kinda weird. Anyway, moving on to Season 10, Loco Shiro... whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna let the man speak for himself, though.
Shamba Wamba.
And that's his contribution for the whole season. Okay, Gus, thank you so much. Season 12, 7 Tween again. Gus acts as Gene's dad to get him out of daycare. This is a weird episode, but the only things of note are that he specifically knows that the grocery store drug tests, and that Bob is totally okay with Gene spending so much time with Gus, even though canonically Gus and Bob have only ever met once so far back in Season 4. God, I should have done these in order, but we are too far in now, so let's finish up the lightning round in Season 13. Committee, sure, yeah. Well, Gus graciously lets the ungrateful Teddy use his telescope, only for him to break part of it off, and then temporarily blind him. Gus is honestly so sweet sometimes, and people are just not back to him, and it breaks my little unemotionally available I'm in my whole phase heart. We need a sweeter feeling episode, so back in Season 5, Speakeasy Rider we go. In this episode, Gene and Gus share the love of flag waving together at the go-kart track, with the middle Belcher child being christened as a junior Gus in training. But for now, the important things to remember are that when Gus passes the flags to Gene at the end of the episode, Gus tells Gene he thought he was just messing with him caring about flag waving, but he seems to be proud of how much effort Gene's putting into it, and that Gus, the flag move, not Gus himself, comes from the heart. And the flask. Oh, and also he isn't dying, just in case you were wondering.
Oh my god, you're dying. I'll take over for you.
What? No, I'm not dying.
For now.
I'm not dying.
Unfortunately, Roger couldn't say the same. God, that transition sucks, but we're gonna stick with it because it is worth it. because Season 11's Heartbreak Hotelloween is not only a great title to this episode, but also one of Gus's most memorable appearances. And also, I'm not going to do the math, but I think he's in this one episode more than all of Season 9 combined, but whatever, here we are. Gus is the first person to be at the hotel for Dolores' yearly conjuring party. He's got a cute little shy crush on her, which plays out over the course of the episode until we see them dancing together in the credits. Some people say the credits aren't canon. I say if it's on screen, it counts. I'm sure that won't come back up later. But besides being a thirsty old man, Gus also gives a little speech that I'ma let him just say for himself.
That thing's a pager?
Yeah, that's how pages looked back then. I had one when I owned this town. This was all my turf. I was untouchable. They called me Payday. I mean, when I was a bike messenger.
Okay, so what the fuck was that? Why was that in the episode? Why is that the one piece of Gus lore that we have found out so far that amounts more to, haha, this old man exists? These few lines are what made me start making this video, and initially I had a much more juvenile theory in mind, where I was gonna say Gus was the spirit of Roger reincarnated, but that's dumb, and I'm dumb for thinking it. Or am I? I am. Carrying on. 2 episodes left to go, and for this first one, you might be thinking I forgot about it in our lightning round earlier, but trust me, it's important, and it's also in Season 11. In Yadi on Ice, Gus confirms to all of us that he lives in a house, which is something, that he wants to take down Santa, and he knows how to use eBay. So Gus is based, but he also drinks craft beer, so maybe a little less based. But the important part of this episode is Gus's dinghy. No, not that one, get your head out of the gutter. The little boat that he uses to get kids to Santa's puke yacht. He confirms that he owns it, which leads us into our final, most recent Gus appearance. In Season 13, the show and tell must go on. Gus is fishing on the beach, telling the girls about dangerous cannonball locations, and only trying to stop them once they're out of earshot. Classic Gus. But he tells them about some smelly seaweed, and how he got some in his boat in 1986, and it smelled ever since. That's weirdly specific, right? So, of course, I start wanting to do some math, figure out how long Gus's boat has smelled for, and also how long he's had it, because according to him,
I got some in my boat in 1986 and it still smells. Not that my boat smelled great before that, but still.
Thanks, Gus.
You're welcome.
but we're lacking some really important information. For one, how old is Gus? This is important, I swear. In 7 Tween again, Miss Jacobs... Wait, that's not Miss Jacobs. Who is that? Okay, it's not important. Anyway, she calls Gus an 80-year-old man, but that's obviously a rough estimate. I mean, he's never shown working a job, sometimes doing odd jobs, but never anything more like a career, so he's probably retired. But also, more importantly, real quick, let me just ask a question. What year is it? Time works really weird in this series. So weird, in fact, that this is a plug for another video, because I'm gonna need a while to break this all down. But here's just something to pay attention to real quick. In Season 1, Tina turns 13. In Season 3's L'Independent Woman, though, she says she's 14.
How old are you?
How old are you?
You first.
We'll say it at the same time. 1, 2,
25. Really?
No, 14.
But in Season 5, Louise says that she is still 13 years old. So Tina was probably just flustered at meeting a boy in the milk aisle. Who can't relate, let's be honest. But the Season 12 finale starts with the basis that Tina's next birthday is coming up. So she's 12 in the first couple episodes, 13 for the majority of the series, and possibly 14 now, but also maybe not. But clearly, about a year of age has passed for Tina. So why are Jean and Louise not aging? In L'Independent Woman again, Jean mentions that he's 11.
I get her apron because it still smells like her, and I like it because I'm 11 and I still like Mom.
And in Ready Player Jean in Season 13, he's still 11.
I don't want to be dramatic, but I think that VR place took Jean's childhood.
Well, you know, there's disappointment in life. I guess 11 years old is maybe an okay time to get a little mud in your muffin.
Meanwhile, Louise is 9 in Season 2's Synchronized Swimming. And in Season 13's The Show and Tell Must Go On, you know, the episode that we're still talking about, wildly off course now, confirms that she's still in the same grade as the pilot episode. Although it is implied that her 12-year stint as a 9-year-old is starting to come to an end finally. So, I don't have the time or the energy right now to get into this, but time is weird, and the existence of Sidecar just ruins everything we talked about, but okay. we're going back to Gus. It doesn't matter how long his boat is smelled for, it just matters that it does. So we have not much. A lot of small fragments of information that don't really add up to anything. Except it will, eventually. And I kinda lied. There's actually one more appearance of Gus. Although it's probably just red herring. Season 6, Glued Where's My Bob, is not only one of my favorite episodes with one of the best songs in the entire series,
Bad stuff happens in the bathroom.
but also one of my favorite end credit sequences. We see the whole cast here, and at first glance, everything looks normal. Main family right in the middle, supporting characters all in groups around them. It makes sense. But why is Gus next to Torpedo from the Season 1 baseball episode, and Sasha? So initially, I went down a giant rabbit hole while I was trying to connect Sasha and Gus, trying to say that maybe Gus was Sasha's grandfather or something like that, because clearly they're right next to each other, and that would make Torpedo possibly Sasha's father, and maybe that's why they don't see them together. But honestly, back in Season 6, we had only seen all three of these characters once or twice, so it makes sense that the super minor characters are just off to the side like this. I just thought it was weird that the episode where Sasha was introduced was also the second episode of Gus in it, but they don't interact at all in the episode, really. Not even really, they don't interact at all, so I guess not everything in this show needs to be as insane as I am.
Oh my god, why am I analyzing this show?
But, okay, I'm sure by this point you're either thinking, wow, this guy's unhinged and also weirdly attractive. And for one, I go by they, them, and for two, you are right. But what's important is that this is the most far-fetched leap we've done so far, because we're gonna dip into BG, or the time before Gus, real quick. He obviously shows up in Season 4, but a ton of episodes in Season 1 to 3 just seem like they would have Gus in them, you know? Lobster Fest, Alt Crawl, Nude Beach, these all spring to mind as episodes that Gus definitely would have popped in for a funny line or two, maybe a sensual dance number in that last one. A person can dream, damn it! But the one that stands out to me as a Gus episode before Gus is the Belchies. An episode taking place on the beach, a large crowd of townsfolk watching a building get torn down. It just seems like pure Gus. To the point where if they made the episode in Season 14 instead of 2, I'm convinced it would have been Gus to introduce the factory to the kids instead of Teddy. He has a proven track record of letting the kids out to do dangerous and illegal things, so why would this not be prime Gus activity? Not to mention, I feel like Payday would have had something to say about Caffrey's bootlegging, maybe a little respect for the generation before him. Either way, finally moving off this train wreck, here's my abridged history of Gus. Gus was born in the 20th century, exactly when is unknown, but clearly he's been living in this area for a very long period of time. He knows a ton about the town's local history, from people's personal life stories like how he shows up Kurt, to knowing that the woolly mammoth being one is clearly a giant deal that why is no one else excited about? His younger years are unknown, but eventually he rose to power to be known as Payday, and quote-unquote run the town. Maybe he started out as a bike messenger for a crime syndicate, or something like that based on how quickly he thought to bring that up in the episode. But we can probably hypothesize that he's had this boat since at least the early 80s and very likely the late 70s. If we take the air date as our date in canon, and use Not Miss Jacobs' 80-year-old man comment, that's supposed to be a joke, but remember, Gus takes very good care of his skin.
I've taken very good care of my skin.
So maybe that's closer to the truth than we're supposed to realize. If we combine these two theories, it would mean that Gus would be born in the early 1940s, meaning that he got his boat at around 30 or 40, and it has smelled like crap for at least 40 years. RIP, honestly, that sounds awful. Except, what if it wasn't awful, but entirely planned? Okay, so hear me out. Why would a 30 or 40-year-old man be buying a dinghy? I mean, you're missing out on the 20s douchebag era, and the 50s midlife crisis for one. But why would you keep it so long if it smelled that bad? Well, 30 or 40 sounds like it would be around peak Payday era Gus, and maybe that smelly seaweed was entirely intentional. I think Gus stank up his own boat to help him cover up running drugs. Gus has a surprising amount of references to drugs, knowing that the supermarket will drug test for some reason, and more seriously, in the classic
Chumbawamba!
episode, the singer confirms that a large crowd of people in her living community moved to the town for its history of drugs. A town formerly owned by Gus, a community of retired, wealthy, boat-owning people that we aren't shown a lot of in terms of who actually lives there. in an episode that just so happens to feature Gus for no reason at all other than to just have him in the episode. Yes, I think that at some point, Gus changes his name from Payday to Gus, and he retires with his ocean of cash that he made as the now former drug lord. And most likely, he's living in that same community, as it would give him a good dock for his boat, while also still fulfilling the I live in a house requirement. In Live and Let Fly, Kurt even asks the kids if they're acting as mules, which is just a weird line if that's not supposed to hint at anything nefarious. But back to Gus, and you could say that he won. He gets to spend his days drinking and trying to enjoy retirement with new and fun activities, living in this really cute retirement community with his possible past partners and customers. It's almost a nice ending. Almost. Because even though he ran the town and helped to found this little community, we always see Gus alone. Even after Heartbreak Hotelloween, we never see him with or mention Dolores ever again. He's always around people, but he's always still alone, very distant. And when he does try to reach out, it usually turns out very poorly. He gets blinded by Teddy. He gets likely left by Dolores. The man can't even get a goose to bond with him. He has a very pleasant interaction with Gene, only to get manipulated by him in a later season. Maybe that's Gus's curse, to live an otherwise comfortable life completely alone. And that terrifies me. And I know that he always seems calm, cool, and composed, but remember, we only see Gus through the eyes of children, and frankly, pretty dumb adults. We never see Gus's perspective of things. And unfortunately, there's no amount of craft beers that can save a tortured soul. And that's it right there. Gus is a tortured soul. I think he did something, or some things, horrible as Payday. And that his place in the show is to suffer the curse of being alone without human connection. And okay, what do I mean by any of this? Well, what if the town wasn't really a town? What if it was a more special place? Could Gus be Caffrey? That would make sense with the timelines, but the timeline already doesn't make sense. I need to stop teeing up new videos, but I think Gus's past is a lot more tragic and dark than anyone would ever expect from just looking at him, and that the town itself is in some way active in his continued torment. But here's to Gus. Raise your flasks up high, and hopefully he can atone for his past sins in the confirmed 14th and 15th seasons of the show. I certainly can't wait for the new episodes to drop. For one, because this is my favorite show, and for some reason season 13 was weirdly amazing, and I'll look for any weird and hyper-fixated reason to watch it again. And for two, because every time that this guy shows up, we learn a little something new about what's up with Gus. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I wanted to have it ready to drop right at 400 subscribers, but we hit that way faster than I had expected to. Hopefully you all subscribe to see the next one, and in the meantime, you can watch some of my other stuff. I do a lot of Pokemon content, and if you haven't seen my last Bob's Burgers theory, you should definitely check that out. Comment down below what you want to see next, and I'll catch y'all next time.